seahorse.
Is it alive?
Yeah, it's alive. What's into a?
Alive one.
Another ball.
Really? There's two fishes underneath. Oh, there is another thing under the sea anemone. Don't cut. Oh, this is a sea hare. This is a sea hare. It's a nudibranch. See? He's moving out. And then his wings will come out and then he sort of fly a bit. We didn't realize that Chek Jawa had moved so many different people from all walks of life. You know, young, old people, people whom you wouldn't imagine would be interested in a muddy place like Chek Jawa. They all came forward, you know, to contribute their time without being fearful of not knowing what's the right thing to do. We just did what we could, and that was just the amazing part.
Right to the water's edge, that's very important. 223.
223.
I think is the only and the last scientific samples of Chek Jawa, because I don't think since then anyone else has done that.
It was the first time that I saw Chek Jawa. Wow, it's really very beautiful and you know, it's just very enticing.
I wanted to share with friends about this fascinating marine life there in close distance and shallow waters.
It's really a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I mean, wow, it's really mind-boggling, really exciting and really meaningful, and you did something really significant for this environment.
Why did we miss Chek Jawa? Because we did not imagine that there was something so beautiful. We think that there is nothing in Singapore.
You know, after the exhilaration of finding, yay, there's this place, but it's going to be reclaimed. It was just really two very contrasting emotions. One, I felt happy, then I felt very sad that it was not going to be there anymore. So it was almost like, we felt quite helpless at first, because you know the government has made a decision.
There are other needs which are real. You know, Singapore is a very small country with a very large population which is growing and has to grow in order for Singapore to remain competitive and effective.
Obviously, they have to plan in their perspective for the good of Singapore to develop Singapore, because they think that you want that to happen, you see.
Sometimes the people who are making these decisions are making it these what we perceive to be very poor judgments because they just don't have the information.
The habitat is too open for dugongs. Dugongs like a more sheltered area. But maybe once or twice, they stray into Chek Jawa to feed because there's plenty of food for them. But it is not the main issue. The main issue in Chek Jawa is the biodiversity of the place.
The beauty of Chek Jawa is that so many rare ecosystems in one small area. When we walked through the coastal hill forest, it was pointed out to me that many of the plants and trees there are rare or extinct in Singapore. And we also saw the tame wild boar that apparently greets all visitors. We called her Priscilla the pig. There were also mangroves at Chek Jawa, and these amazing trees have roots that support them in the soft mud, and all kinds of animals live among their roots. The rocky shore that surrounds Chek Jawa is home to all kinds of small creatures. And these ferocious snails called drills that feed on barnacles that stick to the rocks. But of course, the most amazing part of Chek Jawa is the vast expanse of seagrass in the Seagrass Lagoon. The seagrass forms a miniature underwater forest for all kinds of small creatures where they hide, feed and play. Like these tiny little elbow crab. When I first saw this creature, this large creature, I didn't know whether it was a plant or animal. And most people don't know whether they're plants or animals. It turns out to be that they were giant carpet anemones. It's just amazing that there's so many of them on Chek Jawa. People do accidentally step on them, or sometimes think it's okay to step on them because they think they're plants. The peacock anemones are also fabulous because they look so different from the carpet anemones. They have long tentacles and they come in all kinds of colors, which is why they have the name peacock anemones. Other amazing creatures include large orange hermit crabs. And there are lots of fierce crabs that will pinch your toes if you walk around without any shoes.
Not many Singaporeans actually really took the effort to go and find out things. It's relatively unknown until now, Just imagine the number of years that we as a nationhood, there's so many nature groups, so many academics who are in the business of knowing this kind of things, but they don't know, really. So it tells about something that is missing.
A lot of Singaporeans complain that there's nothing special about Singapore, it's all artificial. But because they sort of wipe out, generalize in such a way, they don't take into account that there are special places, and because they are so careless about this, right, these special places, then these special places cease to exist anymore.
What's that? Is a snail or what?
It's a snail, that's right.
Hey, look at this. It's a car. Big crabs. Yeah. He's got shell. What?
That is another type of big crab.
See, he's got shell.
Yeah, it's hiding under a shell. No, you see the flip side, right? It's like that, no?
Yeah lah.
Like
It's like a slug, it's a slug.
Do you want to see Pan?
When you're done, let me know.
This is a fish that stays in the ground. Someone else comes along and
So it's still alive?
It's just a tragic loss, lah. You know, it's very beautiful and it's going to die.
Right now, I think it's a foregone conclusion, but I think we still do have some faint hope.
Hope, it's hard to think that I really have hope, lah. It's you normally try and dampen down these kind of feelings. What you do is just do what you can.
Because the ERA had an open forum to the public, so I spoke out as an individual, as a concerned member of public. Oh, this is a brittle star. In January, year 2001, this year, I volunteer guide a group of girls from Raffles Girls' School to see the forest. I'm a botanist by training. I'm interested in plants. So we go and see the forest in Chek Jawa, but because it was low tide at that time, it's just by chance we found the sand flat then. So we went, instead of going to the forest, we went out to sea and we saw so many wonderful things. That was the first time we see such a wonderful array of animals. Well, the hole is quite heavy, but don't get poked. After that, like in a short period of time, I realized that this place will be reclaimed. Initially, I was very shocked about it. Such a special place like Chek Jawa should not be lost. And since I'm given the opportunity to know this place, then I must share this knowledge with other people.
A few of us who felt very strongly for Chek Jawa came forward when Joe asked for people to lead the teams for the survey. But of course, all of us didn't know what to do. Almost none of us had done this before.
It was a very difficult period, even searching for help. Well, many people turned me down, outright. When I knocked on the door, they sort of slammed the door in my face for all sorts of reasons, from not being free to being scared of being seen as antagonistic to government plans. But after a while, I realized that surrounding my effort, there are about 40 to 50 very interested individuals.
Sometimes individuals can do what organizations cannot do. See, organizations must be careful about sensitivity, being labeled as anti-government or anti-development. So organizations are more careful. Sometimes they don't want to be involved in sensitive issues beyond a certain line.
Joe and Ria and all these people had some confidence in their government. They had some belief that the feedback system actually works. They were just putting in all their effort and they handed it to the government and said, okay, now if you make a decision, it's going to be an informed decision. You're going to know exactly what it is you're going to be sacrificing, and then you decide whether it's worth it. So that sort of faith is very idealistic, and you're getting this from people who are in their 40s and 50s, People you think, will be quite cynical about life, but they are brimming with the kind of idealism you only expect from teenagers.
Chek Jawa has that magical influence on people. They just feel that, yes, they'll do whatever they can, in their limited capacities, in whatever ways they can. And together, everybody just doing that small bit can make a difference.
Major among them who has direct input, scientific input into this research in Chek Jawa is Professor Teh Tiong Sa. He's a geomorphologist with tons of experience in coastal morphology.
The basic idea was to provide the scientific data as a platform for argument. And to do that, of course, the ecological survey was required, and how to make use of the data, to present the data in a meaningful and readable fashion to decision makers.
And the other person whom I'm very grateful to get to know is Siva Soti. And he provides the impetus for biological survey because he's into animals.
In surveys like this, it's very important to take a voucher specimen. Now, voucher specimen is something you take from the field that is representative of an animal, and you keep it in a museum. And the reason why you do this is that people have a physical specimen to refer to subsequently.
Enough together with the
Ultimately, in the case of Joe Lai and his Transact group, when they make a submission to government, it's actually backed up by physical data, which is quite important in terms of credibility and in terms of scientific method.
Then I had the opportunity of meeting Real Tan. She has this special skill in uploading internet sites and things like that. And she got all our pictures of animal and plant into it. And I think that is actually a very big step forward to highlight Chek Jawa, its plight, its diversity, to as many people as we can.
My website about Chek Jawa, yeah, it's just my attempt to keep it alive. No, not keep it alive. I mean, it's what the only thing we will have left of Chek Jawa is a virtual Chek Jawa.
The first time I went there, I was just amazed that there were so many different things that could be seen there, and they kept telling me about Joe and Ria, kept telling me, every time they go there, they see something new. I'm very interested in marine invertebrates, and in California, I took a class and also taught people, so I brought people to tide pools, and they were always amazed at what's there. A few of my students asked me, Singapore is an island, right? So there must be a whole lot of places to tide pool and get to know amazing animals then. I told them, no, actually we don't have any. And it was quite a sad thing to say that, because I felt like Singapore had developed to such a stage or progressed or whatever, so there wasn't any natural coastline left. I decided to be part of it because I wanted to help record down a part of Singapore that I never knew existed, and it was important for people to know more of Singapore's natural history, what is already naturally given to us in a sense. And because if people don't know what's there, they can't protect it because they can't feel anything for it.
Here we have a situation where Chek Jawa has crept up on us and suddenly announced its presence hours before it's about to get reclaimed. It's suddenly there on the table and said, this place is going. I receive a call from National Parks and they say, do you want to take a last look at this place? Conduct a salvage survey, because that's what the museum does, right? And Nature Society had people, going down, taking photographs, and other people were bringing their friends to look at the place, to learn about marine life. In the case of Joe, he put together a band of people with what he calls, people with a big heart. So these are people, mind you, who nurture life, who want to see things alive. And the last thing they want to do is put it into a bucket and send it to essentially a graveyard or an abattoir, where they're all going to get preserved and killed. And so I understood how difficult it was for them. And I admire them very much because we are used to this sort of work. They were basically thrust into this kind of work at the very last minute with little or no introduction.
Well, I have no previous experience in this, but I read a lot, so I just gather some of this knowledge that I have and figure out what are the things that are needed. We can't just capture animal by hand, it's very difficult, so you have to put the soil, actually, the sand, into the sieve and sieve it. What remains are the animals, are the worms and things like that. I think in all, I spent a few $100s buying this and that. Buying this sort of thing are not cheap, I don't have a workshop in my house. I have to buy everything. So first thing, select the plot. Let's do a drawing, it's easier to explain. Okay, go down here, this is a sandbar. Okay, first thing, you are walking along the coast looking for the marking that we did, right? Yeah. I don't know what to look for, I'm not a scientist. I don't understand.
Because many of us have never done this before and it's all new to us. So it was very important that we had a little briefing before that, and we all met in the little coffee shop on the evening before the survey. And Joe gave us a thorough briefing on what needed to be done.
The rhizome, your roots, right? Your stipes and your fronds, all the parts. Try your best lah.
So when you say 20 cm is from the
20
cm from the starting of the soil, right? So if there's water down there, then how?
Dig lah.
It all dawned upon us at that point that it was a huge thing, and for many of us, we were very uncertain and didn't really know whether we could actually pull it off.
Now, also one more point is that when you do collect any seaweed or seagrasses, make sure you collect it with the roots. Okay, a bad collection is one that is without roots.
Joe also figured out how to
make us non-scientists able to identify the different types of seagrasses. He had this amazing chart. We didn't even have to learn a single scientific name. It was all numbered and there was actual size and all. You just had to pick up a piece of the seaweed and put it against the drawing and just put 1.2.
Who do we have to fight to get the transit that is easier? Okay, well, Peson.
I like the transit. If common people cannot understand or interact with nature in a very simple and direct way, while they have to remember scientific names and identification and things like that, then they'll feel very alienated. And I think that's the biggest problem with conservation, is that people think, oh yeah, the biologists will know best, they'll do what they need to do. They may know best, but there's only so few of them.
So far, there are about 40 individuals from everywhere. They're not from any organization, they're just interested individuals. Some of them are academics, some of them are just students. This survey will be quite hectic. You have to go there, stay overnight. It's a weekday, and I'm so glad that they are able to take leave, to come for the survey.
Film. Good. And remember Chek Jawa.
And raincoats.
Team leader, raise your hand. Come here. I want to introduce you. Come, team leader.
Yeah, introduce the team leader.
Couple and Emily. It is Audrey, Jing Lee, Bok Peng, Ria, and Chu Ming. Alright? 4, 5, 6 parallel lines running from west to east. Now each team will take charge of one line.
Meeting up with like-minded people, and they are from all walks of life actually, from students to retirees, to professionals, to ordinary workers, to volunteers, getting together, and doing something together. That's a lot of fun.
This is the water. Hey, this water slanting.
We only have 2 hands.
We all knew that, we're not here because we are some, well-known professor in a university, but because we care and we want to do something.
You get together a group of people who are so different, who don't even know each other, and overnight you form into teams, and the next morning off you are doing a job. That's amazing.
Sorry.
We only have a window of 4 hours. We want to maximize that 4 hours of low tide. We have to be in the sand flat by 6:30 to do all the setup.
Okay, my entire team is not here, everybody.
Yeah, you got to chase them.
My team members are completely missing and I wasn't sure whether they'd woken up at all. Because everyone else was there. I was a bit worried that they didn't get up, and I didn't know where they were. Well, most of us had a stressful evening before that, trying to figure out what to do and worrying. And of course, some of us had to make sure that everything was prepared. So many of us didn't really get a good night's sleep. We felt the pressure of time because the tide's coming in, we don't have the luxury of time. So we just rushed out as fast as we could and tried to put in as many transact plots as possible.
Be careful. Sandflies, it was terrible. It was like I got measles. It's really, it's all here. There's still a bit of scarring all here.
Memories of Chek Jawa.
Nobody wants to go
really,
now.
I think we'll go.
But during that survey, it was dark, and I just had to follow them, and I sank inside the mud so deep, and I fell, and I didn't know how to choose good spots, And I panicked at one time because I was sinking so deep, and they just walk in front and further.
We really had problems figuring out where everything was, groping around in the dark. Quite a few people, I think, got lost. One thing that wasn't briefed was how to walk in the mud. So I guess a lot of people got stuck, and I think one or two lost their shoes for a while.
You want to take out your shoes? No, please don't.
You cannot take out your shoe and walk.
Move slowly and slide the shoes in and out.
Strike.
As the sun began to rise, right, you actually see that Chek Jawa is actually a very, very big piece of land. I think it's my first time that I've seen such a vast piece of land in Singapore itself.
You have people with no budget and no time, have to coordinate their activity, get advice from a variety of sources, search for manpower, use rather straightforward tools, and try to generate data that will be acceptable to government as well as the scientists. People normally rely on experts to do this, and you can't keep relying on someone else. When there's nobody to help you, you have to help yourself.
A ruler is by no means a good way of measuring things, necessarily, but it was all we could do at that time. It wasn't exactly what you would call a scientific approach. You've got no idea what the variation in thickness of anything might be from one patch to another. But you're only going to be there once. So the object is just to collect what information you can with whatever facilities you have at hand.
How to measure 1 meter square. I know it sounds easy, but how to actually carry it out is a different thing. So he actually thought about it and he came up with this wonderful idea of the PVC pipes. And you know how it can be folded, then you open up, ta-da, it's 1 meter square. A 2.2.
It was quite difficult to choose a good spot. You have this huge area. You want to document and you want to show how rich Chek Jawa is.
There were no seahorses, there were no sea cucumbers. It was a lot of sand with little pockets of water and a few green growing things. But an amazing number of worms.
All the worms.
Anything that feels soft, I'm putting in.
In the name of science, sometimes you've got to be destructive.
Now the problem is, a lot of them are not biologists, so they don't really know a great deal.
I don't know. Is this anything?
We do the learning later. Like, we think we just need to work very fast. Okay.
Of course, there were also lots of concerns about what if we identify something wrongly, then it will just be recorded as wrong, is it? Then he said, no, he assured us that some people from the Raffles Museum would look through what we had and have a double check, also like a safety net. So we felt more confident about doing what we were supposed to do, which is just go out there and try our best.
And the way this will get slowly unraveled is, over time, scientists will visit the museum who are specialists in their own fields. They could be a specialist on barnacles, on sponges, on certain groups of crabs. They will look at this collection as part of their work here to examine, evaluate and identify the collection.
One of the things that we really needed to be more scientific about was or more accurate about was the positioning of the lines, because we were following this line and seeing what's along this line. So that we really needed to use a global positioning system, so recorded the exact coordinates so that people looking at the survey could see that, okay, this is not just any line that we can make up, it's actually there, and people followed it.
It was hard work. After the 7th, you know, it was really hard work carrying on.
Okay. Do you want to salt it first?
Yeah. First.
Salt it first
before. Wait. No, you can't.
I can't take it. I have to put it down.
Some people got very tired. Some people got a bit grumpy because it wasn't very comfortable.
There was a lot of seagrass on the surface and then there was water underneath. And probably this was a more dangerous part because we don't know what's underneath. And so it happened that the photographer of my group discovered a scorpion fish in a painful way. Like he stepped on it. I was worried initially because I didn't know how deep it had pierced and everything. But he said it was okay, so we just took his word for it.
I was standing by, so I was just cleaning my legs, you know, in that little pool of water. Somehow I felt the sting. The pain was so intense that I could not, you know. So after a while, as I said, I knew the pain was there. I myself carry on and finish with it. Since I'm already there, there's no other place I can go to.
It was very painful, but it still continued. It was like nobody wanted to kind of give up or mess the project up.
I think because everyone just came in because they wanted to make a difference. That's really why. I mean, most of us would volunteer because if we can't make a difference, why would you contribute your time, really? So, and this one, obviously, every single person made a difference.
Singaporeans act in a different way and they think in a different way. If they know that, you know, shouting down the street is not going to help, then they are not likely to do it. But if there's a way for them to be engaged, then they will put a lot of effort into it. This survey was a protest in a very different form. It was a peaceful protest. It wasn't with shouting and everything, but it was through, you know, sweating and going down on your knees and getting dirty and feeling the mud and getting uncomfortable.
Questions like, you know, will you fight in a war? If Singapore was thrown into a war, will you fight? I mean, if they can go out to save marine life at Chek Jawa, you can feel reassured that if Singapore is threatened, there will be a lot of people rallying to the cry to defend it.
I believe now more than I did before that in Singapore, a country which a lot of people say is famed for apathetic people, that if you have a project that you believe is worth doing. And if you put out a call, I believe that you will find people who will respond to it.
Smelly, muddy job, but someone has to do it.
At the end of the day, when we saw all the specimens being put together, and there was so much that we had accomplished, in just one day because there was all of us there.
It's cool, man. This is really good. Who did this, man? This is good work.
So it felt good to have a collective effort, bear fruit in such a way. Doing surveys like this and raising the awareness of people and bringing people to experience places is one very, very good way of making people care. Because only when people care will they stay in one place and work out all the difficulties of trying to live in balance with the environment.
Now all of this effort is a concerted effort by a whole array of individuals and groups, and this ultimately was able to shape up into some rather competent feedback. Okay, yeah, Chek Jawa. Yeah, we're gonna try and write in something to relevant people, and I gotta put together some things to make a coherent, hopefully a coherent letter . Just start. Hey Darren, I emailed the Marcus guy. I found his email. Oh, okay. I need to know who came and why. Other individuals are writing in with certain angles. So mine is may overlap. It's recreational, educational, and research. An integrated plan for how the area can be used for all of these purposes, and ecotourism as well. And of course, there will have to be a boardwalk of sorts that extends out from the entry point we're using now, and gives you a ability to go out to the site without stepping on everything.
The transit is one aspect of Chek Jawa. The rest of it, for me, which is even more important, is to bring people to Chek Jawa. They must experience it themselves. And they look at a worm in a bottle, it's not gonna mean anything to them.
Constantly, I meet groups of people, and with a simple show of hands, I find that more of them have visited Disneyland than have been to Bukit Timah Nature Reserve or Sungai Buloh or Pulau Ubin. This happens all the time. So if in the course of a few months of public walks, several thousand people visited a home place, even though there was trampling, I think that was a good thing.
Right now, if you look around, you'll see some birds.
They actually have lots of holes, and what they do is they generate a current and suck in the water.
And then we write reports and then give all this information to National Parks Board.
So nature do provide the kind of opportunity for people to get connected to their land or their country. That connectivity to our own land is what will make us feel that it's our homeland. Nature is like the pulse of the landscape. Just as people are the soul of a nation.
Yes, it does.
Government's decision to defer reclamation at Chek Jawa is good news to all nature lovers. It gives us hope because it shows that the government is listening to feedback.
I felt very glad, very happy in the sense that this place will be preserved, the wildlife will still be here, and also many generations of people will still be able to come by and take a look.
We are very happy the government actually, I think it's maybe the first time they, have changed a plan because of public opinion. I think I really respect them for doing that.
Oh, it's like celebrating a birthday, I think. I just couldn't believe it,
At this point in time, the government has announced deferment of Chek Jawa to avert negative environmental impact on Chek Jawa. We should not reclaim. But if that piece of land is really seriously very important to our national interest, then they should maybe pull the eastern limit of the 82 hectare reclamation westward. That is the second option to me. The first option is still not to reclaim. Too near and Chek Jawa is too small to able withstand environment impact. And whatever their outcome, we have to accept it. We only are providing feedback and options. So in our mind, we are very clear about that. The options are, we leave it to them, and whatever option they make is their choice.
For me, personal lesson of Chek Jawa is that we must look and see and be very sure that there is nothing else. So probably I'll try every low tide to just go someplace else in Singapore and see what's there. Is it just mud or something else? It'll take me a long time to see the whole place. If people forget Chek Jawa and forget that it happened and it happens again, that's why for me the motto is to remember Chek Jawa, what happened here and how we can learn from it to work together.
I can expect that in the year 2050, this place will not be recognizable as Singapore. It will be just concrete, expensive housing flats, chalets for rich people, golf courses which nobody wants to play golf. The poor can't afford it. The poor can afford to come to Ubin and rent a bicycle and ride around and have a picnic.